The greatest mistake you can make when someone disrespects you, betrays you, or tries to destroy your character is to give them the exact thing they are desperately begging for. Your reaction. You need to understand the dark psychology of human conflict to see the battlefield clearly. When a toxic person attacks you, whether it is through a calculated betrayal, a vicious rumor spread behind your back, or a direct, humiliating insult to your face, they are not just looking to cause physical or reputational damage. They are fishing for an emotional response. They want to see the pain register in your eyes. They want to hear the uncontrollable anger in your trembling voice. They want you to send that long, emotionally unhinged, multi-paragraph text message at 2 in the morning defending your honor. Why do they want this? Because your reaction is the currency that buys their validation. It proves to them, without a shadow of a doubt, that they hold absolute power over your internal emotional state. Every single time you explain yourself, every time you argue back, every time you try to set the record straight to prove them wrong, you are willingly stepping into the arena that they designed. You are playing the game strictly by their rules, and you are confirming that their existence actually matters to you. You are handing them the remote control to your nervous system. By reacting, you are signaling to them, yes, your words have the power to break my peace. Yes, your actions can alter my reality. This is the ultimate trap of the ego. Your ego screams at you to defend yourself. It tells you that if you do not fight back right now, you will look incredibly weak to everyone watching. But what you fail to realize in the heat of the moment is that your anger is a confession. Anger is a confession that you care. It is a confession that they have successfully pierced your armor and found your soft spot. The people who wrong you are energy vampires. They feed on chaos, drama, and conflict to feel alive because their own lives are hollow. When you fight them, you are bleeding your precious life force directly into their empty, bottomless cups. You are taking the valuable energy that you should be using to build your empire, to secure your future, and to sharpen your mind. And you are wasting it on parasites who will never understand your true value anyway. True power is not the ability to scream the loudest in an argument, nor is it the ability to throw the hardest punch. True power is the ability to look at a person who has wronged you, recognize their absolute insignificance in the grand scheme of your massive destiny, and choose to grant them absolutely nothing. You must become a black hole to their negativity. When their attacks hit you, they should not bounce back. They should simply be swallowed by the infinite, crushing void of your indifference. If you want to absolutely destroy them, you do not use your fists, and you do not use your angry words. You use your chilling absence. You remove the one resource they need to survive, your attention, to execute the ultimate revenge. You must master the architecture of absolute silence. This is not about giving someone the silent treatment like a petulant, immature child waiting for a forced apology. The silent treatment is a manipulative tactic. It is merely a temporary pause in communication designed to punish someone just enough until they come crawling back to you. What I am talking about is permanent, structural, and absolute disappearance. It is the complete and utter eradication of their access to your life, your mind, and your future. When you make the conscious decision to disappear, you do not make a grand public announcement. You do not post a dramatic, cryptic quote on your social media stories about cutting off toxic people. You do not send a final emotional warning letter explaining exactly why you are leaving and how much they hurt you. Doing any of those things is just another form of reaction, another way of asking them to care. True disappearance requires the cold, calculated precision of an assassin. One day you are there in their reality, and the very next day the door is heavily locked. The windows are boarded up with steel, and the bridge connecting your two worlds is burned to ashes. Block their phone number without a single word of explanation. You completely remove them from your digital landscape, erasing their presence from your feeds. You strategically sever the mutual connections that leak valuable information about you back to them. You become a ghost operating in the daylight. This meticulous process requires a ruthless, almost superhuman level of emotional discipline, because it goes entirely against every natural human instinct. We are biologically wired to seek closure. We are conditioned to want the last word in an argument so we can feel victorious. But you must wake up and understand that closure is a comforting myth created by weak people who cannot handle the harsh ambiguity of life. You do not need closure from the person who broke your trust. You aggressively manufacture your own closure by turning your back and walking away forever. But when you construct this impenetrable wall of silence, you are essentially starving them of your data. Think about how much information they used to effortlessly gather from you. They knew what made you happy, what triggered your insecurities, where you spent your weekends, and who you talked to. By disappearing, you brutally sever the supply line. Plunge them into a state of total sensory deprivation regarding your existence. They can no longer monitor your daily progress or secretly celebrate your painful failures. You become an unreadable, locked book in a language they do not speak. This level of profound silence is terrifying to the human ego. It signals a complete lack of regard for their existence. It says, louder and more clearly than any carefully crafted insult ever could, you no longer exist in my universe. You are dead to me. You are taking back your scattered energy, your hyper-focus, and your physical presence. You are returning to the shadows not to hide out of cowardice, but to strategically operate in a stealth mode where their toxic hands can no longer reach you. You are building an iron fortress of solitude, and you are ensuring there is no spare key left under the mat. Once your iron wall of silence is firmly established, you unknowingly trigger a fascinating and deeply devastating psychological sequence inside the mind of your enemy. When you absolutely do not react, you forcefully deny them the dramatic script they had already written in their head. They fully expected a massive fight. They expected you to be emotionally devastated, crying or screaming in retaliation. They had all their clever counter-arguments ready. their pathetic excuses lined up in a row, and their psychological defense mechanisms fully primed for combat. But when you offer them nothing but absolute chilling nothingness, you leave them standing awkwardly on a stage with no audience to perform for, and no opponent to spar with. The dead silence bounces their own toxic energy right back into their own fragile minds. Without your dramatic reaction to act as a sponge to absorb their poison, they are painfully forced to swallow it themselves. This is exactly where the quiet paranoia begins to take root, because they absolutely do not know what you are thinking or planning. They naturally begin to imagine the absolute worst-case scenarios. Are you quietly plotting a massive revenge behind their back? Have you already completely moved on and replaced them with someone better? Do you know a dark secret about them that they don't want exposed? Their own imagination rapidly transforms into their own personal torture chamber. The human brain simply cannot handle an informational vacuum, so it desperately fills your heavy silence with their own deepest, darkest insecurities. The famous Streisand effect takes complete control over their psyche. By your conscious effort to erase yourself from their immediate conscience, your glaring absence becomes the single loudest noise echoing in their head. They will inevitably start checking your social media from anonymous fake accounts, casually asking mutual friends about your whereabouts, and desperately looking for any microscopic sign that you are suffering miserably without them in your life. And when they consistently find absolutely nothing, when they see that your life is progressing seamlessly without their input, or even worse, when they can find no trace of your information at all, it completely shatters their fragile ego. They are forced to realize the harsh truth that they were never the main character in the movie of your life. They were merely a minor, annoying obstacle that you easily bypassed without breaking a sweat. By disappearing into the ether, you brutally force them to look squarely in the mirror. You force them to sit alone in the dark with the heavy guilt of their actions, or the terrifying emptiness of their own character, without you being there to conveniently distract them by arguing. You are utilizing the highest, most sophisticated form of psychological warfare known to man. You are no longer actively fighting them. You are brilliantly letting them fight themselves to the point of exhaustion. You are letting their own unresolved guilt, their own insatiable curiosity, and their own desperate need for control slowly eat them from the inside out. Your disciplined non-reaction is the most aggressive, devastating action you can possibly take, because it is the one strategic move they have absolutely no defense against. They cannot punch a ghost, and they cannot argue with a shadow. While your enemies are slowly losing their minds in the suffocating vacuum of your intentional absence, you have a completely different, vastly more important mission to execute. Disappearing from their reality is only the first half of the revenge equation. The second, far more crucial half is exactly what you choose to do with the massive amounts of time, energy, and mental peace you have just reclaimed. This is the sacred era of rebuilding your life entirely in the dark. You have successfully taken back the massive amount of mental bandwidth that you previously used to waste worrying about their opinions, obsessively analyzing their toxic behavior, and plotting petty, meaningless revenge scenarios. Now, you must aggressively channel that raw, concentrated, nuclear energy into your own extreme, unapologetic personal evolution. This is ghost mode, functioning in its purest, most potent form. You take the deep pain, the sharp sting of betrayal, and the burning anger, and you refuse to let it consume you. Instead, you use it as the high-octane fuel required to forge an entirely new, unbreakable identity. You enter the gym with a cold, calculated fury, lifting heavy iron until the weakness, the sadness, and the regret are literally sweating out of your pores onto the floor. You lock yourself safely in your room and you study, read, and diligently build your business or your craft with a maniacal, terrifying focus that borders on absolute obsession. You completely stop talking about your grand plans to people who do not matter, and you start executing those plans in absolute, deafening silence. You are no longer the naive, vulnerable person that they successfully hurt. You are actively, deliberately killing that old, soft version of yourself and violently birthing a dangerous, highly competent machine that cannot be easily stopped. The incredible beauty of doing all of this deep work in the dark is that there are absolutely no external expectations to meet, no dramatic distractions to derail you, and no jealous saboteurs actively trying to pull you down. You are now operating completely outside the legal jurisdiction of their irrelevant opinions. Every single day that passes in silence, you are quietly compounding your intrinsic value. You are leveling up financially, physically, and spiritually, while the people who betrayed you are highly likely staying in the exact same miserable spot, till desperately wrapped up in the same petty, low-frequency drama. You must begin to treat your life and your future like a highly classified, top-secret military project. You are actively developing a weapon of mass success, and the rest of the world simply does not get the privilege of seeing the blueprints. You do not post daily updates to prove you are doing well. You do not seek cheap, fleeting validation from strangers on the internet. You learn to genuinely fall in love with the unglamorous, highly repetitive, physically exhausting process of becoming absolutely undeniable. The dark room is the only place where the photograph of your future can be properly developed. Let them foolishly think you are dead. Let them arrogantly think you have given up on life. Their utter ignorance of your progress is your greatest tactical advantage. You are using the quiet isolation to meticulously construct an empire so massive and so brilliant that when you finally decide to turn the lights back on, the sheer glare of your success will absolutely blind them. The final, glorious phase of this rigorous psychological process is the realization of the ultimate victory. And it is a unique type of victory that arrives very quietly, without fanfare or applause. Months, or perhaps even years, steadily pass by. You have successfully vanished from their radar, and you have successfully rebuilt yourself from the ground up into a titan. And then, as the universe always dictates, the inevitable happens. Your paths cross again, either physically in a crowded room, indirectly through the whispers of the grapevine, or digitally through the unavoidable lens of the internet. They finally get a clear, unobstructed glimpse of what you have actually become during your long absence. And the shock they experience is absolute and paralyzing. They do not see the broken, defeated person they left behind. They see a person who is physically imposing, financially bulletproof, and radiating a dark, untouchable, almost intimidating confidence. They see a king or a queen who has entirely conquered their own internal and external universe. But here is the true, devastating punchline of the ultimate revenge. When they finally see your incredible ascent, and when they inevitably attempt to reach out to offer a fake apology, or to desperately ride the coattails of your newfound success, you look right through them, and you feel absolutely nothing. There is zero anger left in your heart. There is absolutely no pathetic desire to gloat or rub it in their face. There is no lingering need to show off your achievements, to prove them wrong. You suddenly realize with crystal clarity that they are operating so far beneath your new, elevated frequency that they do not even register as a microscopic blip on your radar anymore. The ultimate revenge is finally complete, not when your enemies are violently destroyed, but when they become entirely, profoundly irrelevant to your daily existence. You have massively outgrown the toxic, shallow soil they originally planted you in. You realize, with a smirk of enlightenment, that their painful betrayal was actually the necessary catalyst for your current greatness. If they had not cruelly pushed you into the darkness, you never would have discovered your innate ability to generate your own blinding light. This is the absolute apex of the Sigma mindset. You do not hate them, because hating someone still requires an expenditure of your valuable energy. But you simply do not perceive them as significant entities in your world. You have effortlessly taken their absolute worst shot, absorbed the kinetic impact, and beautifully transmuted it into a life characterized by absolute luxury, unyielding power, and total freedom. You have decisively won the game by flatly refusing to play it on their manipulative terms. You walked away from a petty battle of words so that you could go win the massive war of life. Let them watch sadly from the cheap seats as you flawlessly direct the masterpiece of your own destiny. They tried their hardest to break you down to nothing, but all they actually managed to do was hand you the heavy bricks required to build an impenetrable fortress. You didn't react. You disappeared. And by disappearing, you evolved into an untouchable legend.